Now, I know you have a state sovereignty bill this time. Can you explain to me what that is and what it does?
I have introduced, as I did in the 2009 regular session, a state sovereignty joint resolution. And this joint resolution is designed to basically state that in the makeup of our governments in the United States, we have a constitution that establishes specific powers and limits of power on the federal government. In fact, when you think about it, the states convened, didn't they,
Right.
in a constitutional convention before we ever had a federal government.
Right.
The federal government, therefore, is an agent of the states. And under the Constitution, and specifically under the 10th Amendment, the powers are specifically enumerated to the federal government, and therefore the federal government should be limited by express authority granted. All other authority resides in the states. Well, the purpose of this resolution is to recognize that over recent history, we have seen the federal government encroach more and more and use extra constitutional authority that it doesn't possess to affect political change and to really take over what belongs in the purview of the states. And whether it is trying to influence what is going on at the states by establishing a mandatory measure that says you have to post a certain speed limit on interstates in order to get federal money, or whether it is building a new system of health care that will mandate to states what they have to do and the expense that they will have to undergo to help provide these programs. The bottom line is the federal government doesn't have authority to do that at all. And so this particular measure is designed to help raise the level of awareness that we need to stop this encroachment by the federal government on what is best left to and is constitutionally an issue that resides at the state level.
So basically, it is a kind of a reminder to the federal government that its powers come from the states, and it has certain boundaries that it has to stand.
That's right. We're trying to put everyone on notice. The resolution would actually require that a copy be given to the President, to the members of our congressional delegation in the U.S. House and Senate, and also would be given to various levels of executive offices in the executive branch of the U.S. government as well.
Okay. I also noticed yesterday, and this hasn't been talked about a lot, but you have a bill this time that will guarantee individuals the right to vote by secret ballot. Is that kind of a last measure of defense against the Employee Free Choice Act, or card check, is that like?
It's the first measure of defense.
First measure of defense.
The House, this is House Bill 3. It was introduced very early on. I had introduced it actually at the end of the last session. And we all have heard about the labor unions movement nationally to get behind what has been termed the card check bill. Basically, that bill is designed to allow union organization votes to be taken in the workplace without the protection of the individual making that decision in a private selection by making a secret ballot vote. It would allow unions to come in and present a card, and in full view of ever how many people there are standing near you, or in the presence of a team of union representatives, having you as an individual employee having to make the election or the vote on that ballot in full view. Well, in the United States, historically, when we first started voting, whether it was for a local election or a presidential election, we voted in public. But there was so much violence that occurred historically at the place of voting because there was coercion when people didn't like the way you voted.
Right.
There was undue attempts to influence the voting process, and it just didn't work. Well, the country that had the system that worked best in terms of balloting was Australia. And so we adopted the Australian ballot, which was a private or secret ballot process. And so that's what we're doing, is we've had the secret ballot or the private ballot process in place for a long time in the United States and indeed in the state of Alabama. So this gives us the opportunity to say this long-standing practice has worked well. It's protected the rights and the privacy of the individual as they vote, and so it's probably, because it's been so successful, the best time to pass a constitutional amendment protecting that right.
Okay. Do you have anything else this session, that anything else you're introducing that you'd like to talk about?
I have introduced a bill that for the first time would create a medical savings account process in the state of Alabama. It would allow individuals to set aside money on a income tax-free basis up to specific limits and set that money aside to either pay for qualified medical expenses for themselves or their family, as well as pay for the deductible for a high deductible medical insurance plan.
Okay.
Employers can deduct whatever portion they pay for their employees, and individuals can deduct whatever they would pay for. I'm sorry, it wouldn't be a deduction, it would be an exemption, which is even stronger.
Right.
What we're trying to do here is, there's twofold. One is to help employers have the ability to provide medical insurance to their employees on a more cost-effective basis. So the ability to reduce your income tax liability by providing this benefit is a really good inducement for employers to provide expanded health care benefits. Maybe an employer has never been able to afford providing it before, but now they can. For private individuals, what we're trying to accomplish here is an expansion of the number of people in the state of Alabama that have medical insurance. You know, I told you earlier in an earlier discussion that oftentimes the federal government extends or exceeds its constitutional authority for issues that are best addressed at the state. And frankly, health insurance is one of those issues that I think we can address quite effectively at the state level, and this is one way to do it.
So that's basically the same thing as a health savings account.
Exactly.
You're authorizing health savings account, which is good. That gives people more control over the way their health care dollars are spent.
Puts them in a consumer's point of view as it relates to the consumption and decision making as it relates to their medical care.
Okay.
Yes.
Well, thank you for talking to us
you.
today. Can I get a roll tide
Thank
before you go?
Roll Tide, Brooklyn.
Roll Tide.